it's always a fantastic Raw when we get a random World Heavyweight Championship match as our main event. And we got Jey Uso, his first title defense against arguably the best in-ring competitor of our generation, Seth freaking Rollins. It was all set up by a face-to-face promo earlier in the night with Jey Uso and Paul Heyman, which we'll get to in a minute. Of course, Andy, this was a non-finish because Sami Zayn showed up, Braun Breaker was there, and then at the end of the night, CM Punk made his return, ultimately causing the disqualification, costing Seth Rollins the World Heavyweight Championship. At the end of the night, Andy, it was Punk, Sami, and Jey in the ring. Heyman, Rollins, and Breaker retreating. Just a fun way to end a really good Raw and a really good main event, and an absolutely incredible first title defense for Jey Uso.
Yeah, this was very important for Jey of getting that first title defense past him. And I'm really glad that they didn't wait for Logan Paul to be his first title defense. I think
Agreed.
doing someone like Seth is really important because, yes, while it was a non-finish, and I'm not a huge fan of non-finishes, especially like TV title matches. I kind of get why you do it most of the time. But this one was done really well to make everybody involved look as strong as possible.
Yep.
I mean, especially since, there's a point when Seth ate a super kick, a spear, and then a splash. And I was over here shaking my head like, don't let Seth eat the pin on him, like already. He just started this group.
Yep.
And when he kicked out, we kind of looked at each other and we're like, is Seth about to win? Like, is Seth really going to win this? But they did a really good job of just building everyone up involved to where I mean, we might get Logan Paul and Jey Uso at Saturday night's main event, but I could see a 6-man tag coming before then of Sami, Jey, and Punk versus Seth, Braun Breaker, and probably throw in Logan Paul there to kind of add it all together. But yeah, I think like the match tonight was really well done. Obviously, when you put Seth Rollins in there, he can kind of carry anybody to a great match. But I'm not going to act like Jey Uso didn't do his part either. Jey did a really good job, except for the stomp sell. That one was a little wonky, but everything else was just really, really, really solid.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that 6-man probably could happen at Saturday night's main event, honestly, because John Cena is advertised for this Saturday night's main event. So you're probably not going to put both world titles on the line. I know they did it for the very first one. I don't know that they'll do it for this one as well. All that to say, the stories are continuing to unfold. Clearly, the story with Punk and Rollins is not over, judging by the promo that Paul Heyman cut the beginning of the night explaining why he did what he did. Well, he didn't give every detail, but he sort of gave us the reasons as to why he left Roman and why he left Punk, not necessarily why he joined Seth, but I mean, maybe the lesser of three evils. Who knows? But you have Seth and Punk. That story's not over. You insert Sami Zayn last week. Now we know that story is continuing. And then the Braun Breaker, we know his history with Sami Zayn. Now he's obviously going to have some ties with CM Punk. And then Jey Uso. Andy, it seems like Jey Uso is just sort of catching stray bullets here because he has that World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so great about the Raw world title picture right now is that there's so many people that could go after that world title and it all makes sense.
Yep.
And I think that's done really, really well. And Jay is one of those guys that he can kind of be in several different feuds at once. Because now, I mean, there's so much history with him and with, like you just mentioned, with Seth and the promo that Paul cut tonight. But then, like, it's not out of the realm of possibility that we could get a Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns match for that world title at some point. Or, Logan Paul is now involved kind of in all of these, and Sami Zayn is involved in all of these. So there's so many directions that they can go in. I think they've done a great job of just building that world title to not feel like a secondary title. And they've done a great job of doing that.
Yeah, especially when you have it on arguably the most popular wrestler on the roster,
Yeah.
especially on the Monday Night Raw roster in Jey Uso. They've just put too much. I said this to you during the match. They've just put too much work into building up Jey Uso and telling this Jey Uso story to just let it go on a main event of Monday Night Raw. Like, yes, it's Seth Rollins, and yes, this Rollins Heyman Breaker story is incredibly important. Obviously, we're building to big things in the future, but just to throw away Jay's 3-week title reign for that, probably not going to happen. And they made the right call tonight. Like you said, most of the time we do get a non-finish on TV was done well tonight. I still think they made the right call, though.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it was the right call to keep the title on Jay, but again, without sacrificing Seth in this new group. And I think that's something that hasn't always been done great. I think sometimes we sacrifice one for the other, but I think there was a solution tonight, and they went with the best solution. I think we all saw a disqualification or a throwaway match, a throwaway finish in this match, but I don't think anybody saw both Sami and Punk getting involved. We kind of were saying one or the other. Having both get involved and Punk making the surprise return at the end of the night with the steel chair and all of that. They did a really good job of how they did it.
Hey, listen, no matter if you're a smart mark or not, and you saw the DQ finish coming or whatever, you were biting on those false finishes just like we were. The splash that Andy mentioned earlier, the second stomp. I mean, Jey Uso kicked out of a stomp. Not too many people do that, even if it was an ugly one, but nonetheless, he kicked out. But I thought it was great. A fantastic Monday Night Raw main event. We often see Triple H place things on go home shows that just don't make it to the Backlash card. Whether this was rushed or planned or what have you, it was really, really cool to be able to get this on free TV. Not necessarily that. Well, I was going to say Peacock's free, but it's technically not, but it is what it is. All encompassing. You get my point.
Yeah.
Netflix is not free either. Listen, I'm living in the 90s when we're watching cable TV.
Cheaper than cable, though. Cheaper than cable.
That's accurate.
And we're not paying $50 a month for pay-per-view, so that's
very accurate.
That's good.
That is very accurate. All right. If you guys are joining us live, be sure to drop your comments, drop your questions in the chat. Jared Justice, who is still on his work training trip. Hey, yo, in the chat. Thanks for hanging out with us, Jared. Before we wrap this, it looks like Brad has a comment. It was good to see the old Paul in the promo. It was like when he was back with Brock. Listen, Andy, I thought he was going to blow a gasket in this promo. Like, there was so much passion with Paul Heyman. But yeah, it was like when he was with Brock. And it was super cool to see him in this way again. Again, not necessarily Andy telling us why he's with Rollins, but just selling us on the fact that Roman and Punk just did him wrong, no matter how much we like them.
Yeah, and I think it's, one of those things that we talked about before, and we may even talked about it on the WrestleMania Night 1 post show, is not doing a swerve just to do a swerve. Like Paul going away from Roman and from Punk both made sense, and tonight Paul explained why perfectly.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, that's part of what we talked about is, during the whole saga when Paul Heyman was still kind of part of the bloodline, but Solo and Jacob and them were beating him up or put him through the table, and Roman didn't do anything about it. We all were like, how is Paul just going to forgive Roman for this? Like, this is all kind of playing back into that.
Yes.
And then you bring Punk into the equation, and you have that tension that's always there. So yeah, I thought nobody does a promo better than Paul Heyman. Honestly, like if we did a Mount Rushmore of the greatest talkers in WWE or professional wrestling history, I honestly put it as number 1, Paul Heyman, and then like a massive stretch between 1 and 2, because I don't think there's anybody nearly as good as him ever. But he knows how to sell you on what he's saying, and yet you don't believe him at the same time because of who he is. He's so good at that at the same time. The only thing I was worried about is I couldn't tell if he was red because of him cutting the promo or if it was just the bad spray tan he got, because he was looking a little rough out there.
Listen, Kevin Owens' tweet about Seth Rollins needing to get a spray tan to match his comrades was pretty hilarious. Yeah, the spray tan for Heyman. I mean, the spray tan for Breakker is always there, but Heyman's is getting a little bit excessive.
I wouldn't mind it if he actually spray tan, like, you know, his hands the same color too, or his neck. They're like 3 different colors.
That's fair. Jared in the comments, Paul was working on a coronary, especially hanging with the model. Well, yes, we're not. Yes. If you're following on social media and you know what we're talking about, Heyman hanging with models, just, yeah, we'll leave that one to the internet wrestling community.